Hey everyone, it's Chef Nick again. Thank you for tuning in. This demo, we're gonna focus on making handmade pasta. No need to be concerned, it's super simple, and I'm gonna show you exactly how easy it is to get it done. And I'm gonna show you a couple different ways to manipulate it in color and talk about shapes, fillings, and so on. The first thing we need to talk through is just the simple ingredients that we have in front of us here. So we have this all-purpose flour, some egg yolks and whole eggs, and then some olive oil and salt, and then a little bit of semolina flour. That's it. The first thing we need to do is combine these two ingredients, both the flours together, with just a little bit of salt. Give that a quick mix. But once that's done, we're going old school and doing this by hand so we can see just how easy it is. We have to make a well for the eggs. I want to try to make it kind of uniform so the eggs will stay here in the middle. Now, eggs have to go down here in the center, and you'll see it's starting to inch up maybe around some spots. That's okay. Just move some of the flour around, make sure you keep it contained. Now, all I'm doing here is just breaking the yolks up. And you might ask yourself, can I just mix this up ahead of time? The answer is no, because the way you do it this way is as you mix this together, it slowly incorporates the flour. And eventually you're gonna work it to a point where it looks like kind of like a scraggly dough. It's not uniform, it's all kind of rough. And that's the point that we'll go ahead and just start hand kneading this together. So I'm gonna put this off to the side and start using my hands. And I'm just kind of rolling this forward and using the heel of my palm to strike forward. And this part is very important. You don't want to rush this because if you under-knead it, it won't work. And so you really want to knead this for like 5 solid minutes, maybe even more. You can't over-knead it. And so you're going to feel it slowly become more and more elastic. And this is replacing what would be if you had this in the mixer with a dough hook, you're doing all the work yourself. But the reason behind this is anybody can make this with just a fork and a little bit of sweat equity, if you will, to come together to make the dough. So now what you're looking at is the dough ball already kneaded and had a chance to rest, and you can see my thumbprints in there and it kind of bounces back a little bit. It's nice and elastic and smooth. But what you're also seeing is 4 different pasta dough balls here. And the point is you can really easily manipulate the recipe that you have as a resource to create these. And the recipes are also included there. But what we're gonna use is this achiote paste, because if you've been seeing the other demos, we're trying to cross-utilize ingredients. So what this is gonna be filled with is actually the beef birria that we made, and the broth is gonna be the sauce or the broth that it sits in. And so it's gonna be filled as a ravioli with pimento cheese that we use the whipped ricotta for, and that we used the beef birria in one of the other recipes. That's inside of here as well. That's gonna be our filling. So we're just gonna wrap these up so they don't dry out. That's very important. If you're not using the dough right away, make sure you wrap it, because the dough will dry out very quickly, and you don't want that to happen. It's good to have a spray bottle lying around, just water, so you can help spray the surface of the pasta as you go if you need to, if it's sitting out, so it doesn't dry out. And always have a little bit extra flour on hand for your work surface so nothing sticks. And in this case, we'll put a little bit of flour down first, just so where we're working is nice and floured. And now to put this in the sheeter, you can roll this out if you want to. So if you want to go completely old school and do the fork method and then do the dough just by hand with the rolling it out, that's more than fine. Obviously it's a little bit more work, but certainly all you need then is a fork and a rolling pin. But for this, we're going to use the sheeter for this method, and that's very simple. So just to get it started, so it sits in here, so it starts to fit, I have to roll it out slightly, and I have it on number 1, which is the fattest or thickest opening to start. And we'll gradually increase the numbers so it gets thinner and thinner and rolls out. And then what you want to do just to make sure it's uniform is just do a fold it over, and then use the side that doesn't have the folds on it to go through again. Because what this is going to do is make sure that you're taking any of the extra air out, that it's nice and uniform. And this is exactly how you want it to look. It should be kind of like a leathery sheet, basically. So it's got elasticity to it, and you're able to manipulate it, and it's not sticking to anything. It's just the way you want it to be. Okay, now we have this sheeted where we like it. And what I'm gonna do is actually put a little bit of flour down on the table, just so as we fill the raviolis or make the raviolis, it doesn't stick to the bottom as we fill it. And it doesn't take a whole lot just to get the table surface floured. And what I'm actually gonna do too is use my spray bottle and just give us a quick mist. It's not a lot, just a little bit to make it wet so it doesn't dry out as we go ahead and fill this thing. And we're also kind of riding this wave of that red taco movement. We're making red raviolis, kind of similar, cut from the same cloth here. And, you know, just trying to drive that innovation through. So I've got a cutter you see here. So, I mean, this is kind of my guide. And what I'm gonna try to do is pipe out rounds, keep them spaced out. And I'm gonna fold this over and then stamp them out when we're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and pipe these out. So pimento cheese, whipped ricotta, ossobuco that's been flaked off there. And what you're gonna see is we're gonna have some extra pasta dough when we cut these things. And a couple reasons. Well, one is I'm not being really good about my measuring here. But for two, you can reuse that dough. So take it again and roll it back together, put it through the machine, and you'll be able to reuse the dough. So at the end of it, you can make sure it's 100% usable if you spend the time. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over and just kind of put my fingers around each of the areas where I have the filling. So I know where it is, and then when I stamp it out, it will be in a good spot. And when you stamp this out, this is gonna help kind of make that seal. So it will, you know, make sure this all stays together. All right, now we have the raviolis out of the water, they're cooked. And now we're gonna plate this up. So I have the birria broth from an earlier demo for the red raviolis that we're kind of incorporating here. And actually, if you wanted to, I could have cooked the ravioli in the broth if you want to, you know, do it that way as well, absorb some of the flavor. But I'm just going to go ahead and put some of this down first as our really flavorful broth from the ossobuco we cooked earlier. And then I'm going to go ahead and put raviolis down in there. And then to garnish this off, we have cotija cheese, which is kind of like your Hispanic Parmesan cheese. It's got some nice salinity to it and some good vibrancy. So we're gonna add that. And then we're gonna add cilantro, some red onion, and then some fried tortilla julienne strands for garnish. And there you have it, birria red raviolis.